NHS Lanarkshire has had to postpone a number of appointments and procedures after a malware attack on its IT systems. The Health Board said hospitals and GP practices had been disrupted by computer problems, but stressed there were no concerns around emergency treatments. Well, Professor Bill Buchanan is an expert in online security and cybercrime at Napier University. Joins me now. Hello.
Hello.
What do you think might have happened here?
It's difficult to know. I think the amount of information actually coming out of NHS Lanarkshire is quite disappointing, and I think you see a lot of placeholder information, and they're saying it could be malware, it could be an attack, and so on. And I think really the NHS has got to take more responsibility for informing citizens as to what's actually happening.
I suppose one of the reasons they might not would be that it would give information to those responsible.
Well, I don't think there's any sign that it is actually an attack at this time. If you look at the statements that are there, it says there's incidents of malware. That is typically done through some sort of phishing attack, which is quite common within the public sector. And maybe they've identified the downloading of some malware in parts of their infrastructure, and now they're trying to clean up on that. So it's very difficult to know from the statements that are really being made. I think our public sector need to be quite sharp in terms of informing citizens as to what's actually going on.
Well, we actually see the NHS hit quite a lot, don't we? I think NHS Lanarkshire was badly hit just earlier in the summer. I think it was May.
Yeah.
Would you have expected them to have some extra support, some extra expertise in there?
It's going to take a long time to rebuild an infrastructure which is completely secured. It's a large and disparate network. You're spanning from hospitals to outreach computers, typically in GP practices and so on. I think a lot of investment needs to happen fairly soon to make sure that it becomes robust. I'm fairly sure they've not been able to act on all the issues that were identified in the recent malware attack.
Sometimes this malware takes the form of what they call ransomware, doesn't it? Where actually, in order to free up some equipment, you actually have to pay money.
It could be. It's difficult to know. Ransomware is obviously quite prevalent just now. I think there's been a lot of attacks and targeted on nation states such as Ukraine, where sort of intruders have went in against an infrastructure. It's difficult to know at this point exactly what it is, but it could be that it relates to the previous malware which is spread.
It's obviously good news that there were no concerns around emergency treatments. Would it be any part of your advice to organisations like this that actually some of the most crucial elements of what they do should be removed from computers that have access to the outside, effectively access to the internet?
I think it would be almost impossible for any system, really these days, any modern system, to be able to cope without access to the internet. It provides us with a good communication channel, and there should be nothing wrong with actually connecting directly to the internet. You can create secure channels from there. I think what needs to happen is that we need to make sure that we see healthcare as a critical national infrastructure, part of our critical national infrastructure, and we should protect it in the same way. Any failure in the health infrastructure could cause devastating effects, and I think we've got off quite lucky up to now, and hopefully in the future we will invest more in this important area.
Indeed. Okay, thanks very much for joining us this evening. Professor Bill Buchanan from Napier University, Edinburgh Napier.